Welcome to Small Business Diaries, the podcast by Capsule CRM. My name is Jon Davis, and I'm the head of content. And I'm joined here today by our CEO, Steve Ledgerwood.
Hey,
So, Steve, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
so I am a South African living in England. For those of you who are British, know what that means. I am the CEO of Capsule, and I have been in this position for nearly 2 years. I come from a very commercial background, so I have been working a lot on marketing and sales teams, as well as support and customer success teams for the last 20 years. And a lot of what we're wanting to try and uncover in these podcasts is stuff that I've experienced over that time.
Tell us a little bit about why we decided to start this podcast, Steve.
I think small businesses have a really tough time, and it's really difficult to get some really good information. And so I feel like this podcast and the themes and the topics that we would discuss will really help small businesses uncover what really matters and things that they're really struggling with.
How are you, Steve?
I am very good, thank you. I'm really excited about this topic and this chat today.
Yeah, so this week, it's been a couple of days since the episode, actually, but this week we spoke to Kinga Edwards, who's the CEO and owner of Brainybees, a SEO agency that we work with. She's got quite a interesting background, right, Steve?
I mean, she gave us some really great information about her past. So yeah, it was just really interesting understanding her journey.
Yeah, I mean, she's got expertise in SEO and, she's been in the marketing industry for about 14, 15 years, but she jumped, into the business ownership side of things. And I thought that was really interesting. But I suppose if I'm reflecting on the episode, what were the things that you thought were most interesting, Steve, from our conversation the other day?
The background of her, from where she grew up and what she did was super interesting. And if I were to give a little bit more context to that, Kinga was a professional footballer. I mean, we know her because we work with her, but she's never really told us that.
Yeah.
And that was just super interesting. And just also what she was talking about around how she likes to employ people that have had a dedicated sports background, because of the mindset that these people have, and the disciplines and the routines that they have just to be able to try and make sure that they're getting ahead.
What do you think it is about people with a sports background that makes them successful? Because I kind of feel like, with Kinga's background being a professional footballer, and obviously some famous footballers have gone into business, like Matthew Flamini of Arsenal. He owns like I think it's a petrochemical company, but don't quote me on that. Um, and obviously Gary Neville, a well-known Manchester United player, he's got a media empire. But what is it about sport that you think that gives people the tools to succeed in business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wouldn't be able to say it in detail, but off the top of my head and from my own experience, I think the focus that they have on one particular task, they're not distracted by other things. They're very dedicated to that specific thing. And that you learn in business. You are very dedicated to be able to create something or have a success in a particular journey. They also have a mindset of continuing to try. It's not just we're gonna leave this particular area because we're not doing well or because someone's beating us. It's more around continuing to try, continuing to get more fit, continuing to
Yeah.
practice, doing more skills. And in business, you need that. We're gonna fail. We're gonna learn.
Yeah.
And it's about getting up and doing it again that makes people successful. So I think it's those two things, mindset and also just this discipline of just continuing to try until you figure it out. I think that's useful in business.
Definitely. When I reflect on my own career, i.e., so far anyway, I kind of feel like I've always learned more from my failures because they're the ones that you don't forget about, right? They keep you up at
Yeah.
night, and then you hope to be able to not necessarily rectify it because a mistake has been made, and it's more like what can I do in the future to prevent that from ever happening again. I thought,
It's also interesting because in Kinga's journey, she got injured, so she stopped playing. But she didn't take that as a problem
yeah,
and spiraled into a negative framework, and that's also a sporting mindset. It's like, okay, so what do I do now? And she's a super successful business person right now.
Yeah.
And she could have taken a different angle and a different mindset based on, the fact that she had had a specific event happen to her. So I
And
thought it
that's a
was interesting.
really interesting comparison you draw there, because all the most successful entrepreneurs and business people that I follow and have read, because I've read a lot. I read that's not Stephen Bartlett, Richard Branson's autobiography,
Yeah.
and that was a fascinating read to me, because he has made a whole bunch of mistakes and he laid them out in full detail. But it's that grit, that determination, and that passion that separates like entrepreneurs, top athletes, from the rest of us mere mortals, as it
Yeah.
were. For sure.
I mean, I think if you look at most successful people in the world, they don't talk about failures as a problem. They talk about how many times they failed in order to succeed just once, right? So I think we don't learn from that because we're worried about failure. We in a business or in a team or even in your personal life, your kids, they're all so conscious of failing and making sure they get it right the first time. And in an environment where we have to fail to be able to understand how to succeed, we should just be encouraging that a lot more.
Yeah.
And also with Kinga, her perspective and her mindset was really interesting. I talked about what mistakes have you made, and she was quick to correct me to say we don't make mistakes. We talk
We
about
learn.
those learnings that we can have. And I thought that was really interesting.
It's that mentality again, that completely different mentality, where it's like every opportunity to learn more, right? To tailor that. One thing I found interesting about Kinga was when we talked about the kind of caliber of candidates that she wanted to hire in her organization. And what struck me is just how passionate she is about her business and the health of her business and the culture of her business. And I think that as we explore this journey, with other entrepreneurs, with other CEOs and other, small business owners, I think that's something we're going to actually see quite a lot. That having that detailed and almost like forensic, like kind of approach to placing the right people in the right business in the right place is going to be quite common, I think.
I someone who's been doing that for a long time, which is hiring people. It's incredibly difficult when it's your own company, your own money, and you're starting from scratch. The essence of someone else coming in and potentially messing up your model or
Yeah.
your business is so hard. And in her situation, you almost want to say you can't hire like you. It doesn't. We can't hire another person,
Yeah.
another Kinga. You have to figure it out. But owners have to go through that journey, and they're so passionate. Yeah.
But I think she's learned that because she admitted when she first wanted to hire
Mm.
someone, I just wanted a clone, another Kinga. But then she kind of realized that the value in other people. I'm not saying that she didn't realize the value in other people beforehand. That's a careful clarification there. But her mindset gradually changed as she began to open herself up to hiring more people. But I thought
There's
those were really
probably
interesting.
a cliff there if you're so set on hiring a particular individual and then you just see the workload. I think at one point you're just like, I need to try. And then
Yeah.
at that point, you have some successes, you have some learnings, as she would say, rather than failures. And then at that stage, you try and get a model of, who you want to hire based on things that you need rather than, who they are as individuals to potentially. So yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, well, I thought I'd just talk a little bit actually now about some of the future guests we've got coming up. And we're going to be having Julia Blake as well as some of our clients as well, in the coming months as well. So, what I wanted to say here, I want to take this opportunity for people that are listening or watching is if there's anyone that you would like us to approach, if there's any topics and themes that you would like us to talk about, then just let us know in the comments. Let us know on our LinkedIn channel. Let us know by contacting us directly on our website. The website will be in the description below. And we'll try our best to accommodate that.
Amazing. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, anyway, we're just going to get straight into the episode now. So see you on the other side.
Cheers.
So, Kinga, Thanks for joining.
Thanks
And
for having
the
me.
first question, no problem. The first question I have for you is, who are you?
Well. I think it's the hardest to actually describe yourself. Whoever is going
Ah,
to ask, like, is the hardest. You can describe everything, but not yourself. But if I had to, so my name is Kinga Edwards. I run a company called Brainybees. I like calling us a small team doing big things. We've been working with more than 40 SaaS companies right now on content marketing and link building SEO strategies. As I said, it's mainly for SaaS companies, but also for IT, for software development companies all over the world. So we do have clients in the UK, US, Canada, Australia, Japan now. So it is
wow.
challenging. It is challenging, but I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Awesome. And why did you start Brainy Bees? Like, what was the story behind that?
Well, it's a quite interesting one. It's actually connected to the UK, but also to my previous career path. So I was working when I came to uni. I was working with a couple of agencies, and in a couple of agencies full time, on huge brands as well, but more like B2C brands. And during my studies, I had the opportunity to go to Cambridge and to work for Cambridge Assessment for a couple of months. So James, my boss, if you watch it, you probably will. Hi. Uh, so yeah, but I had to come back to Poland to finish my studies because we are based in Poland. But just I forgot to mention that. I had to come back here and was working with another agency, and it got to the point also in my personal life, like I have to move to the UK. And I was really optimistic about it. I had this UK experience, I had Polish experience in agencies, so I was applying to a lot of agencies in Manchester, and I was rejected everywhere. I was rejected every
Oh,
single one.
Wow.
But many of them were related to we had this referendum a couple of years ago, and they just didn't know how to proceed with me, even if they wanted to. I got one offer, which was 1 year of free internship. So I did say, like, thank you very much,
and
but
like just for the context of our listeners here,
Mm.
when you were applying for jobs in the UK in 2016 before you started Brainy Bees, you had quite a reasonable level of experience then at
yeah,
that
that's
point
why
as
I
well.
said, yeah, that's why I said I was quite optimistic. I wasn't applying for anything senior or anything like that, just like
Mm.
junior marketing assistant, something like that, like very starter roles. And I was rejected. And then it's like, well, what am I going to do? And I had two choices: either stay in the UK, get another job, and maybe try again in a couple of months, or throw them and come back to Poland and do some
Yeah.
Yeah.
freelancing. So you know what I went for? I went for the latter, and I started taking some freelance projects, which was actually great for that part of my life because I could work remotely, I could travel. So I did travel a lot during the period. And then I got a part-time job in one SaaS company here in Poland, like quite small. They're still operating, which is great. And yeah, that's like the kind of like was really interesting to see how many things that are potentially small they can have big impact. So I really like SaaS. I said, okay,
Yeah.
that must be the way to go. And then I started getting more freelance projects, but more for SaaS companies or mobile apps or something, connected with that world. And I got to the point like, okay, I either have to take someone to help me or I'm gonna hit the wall. So
Mm.
I took a first person on board, then the second.
This is you already starting your Brainy Bees consultancy, as in you took on board one customer and then you started growing your business, yeah?
Yeah, that's pretty much where I started calling it Brainybees. Before that, I was like a freelancer. I did have my
Mm.
company, but it wasn't like Brainybees. I wasn't my own. There were no
And
bees. That was a
how long were you doing the freelance gig for before you
Oh, there
decided to
was like
Mm.
go
I would
Brainy
say
Bees?
around like a year because it
Okay.
grew really quickly. Bearing in mind my reputation for SaaS, let's say SaaS promotion, I can call it like this. More and more companies just wanted to work with me.
I'm sorry,
So
we just have to have a little bit of a plug here. To the people who decided to move to a non-EU profile or free-flowing profile, here is a great example of someone who is skilled and amazing at her work. And we know this because we work with her directly, that didn't get the opportunity. So yeah, just a really great example of, the impact negatively
It's
that it's made on our country. Yep.
it's the UK's loss and Poland's gain and Kinga's gain as
Yep.
well, I might add
Yep.
as well.
yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful it turned out this way. Like I'm really grateful I was rejected. So thank you everyone who rejected me. From
I
from
think what is really really great about the story is that you could have turned around and been really frustrated, which of course you were. But one of the great things is that your attitude and your mindset was to be able to try and pivot and find something else. And you've got into a situation which is very favorable for you. And from what our last conversation is actually you are looking to potentially even make a switch and move back to the UK now, depending on your circumstances. So frustrated that you don't want to have anything to do with this country. You just pivoted and you created a different story around it, which is great. That's brilliant.
How do you think like that? How do you get into that mindset?
I was always hardworking. I don't take things for granted. I know that if you want something, I like calling it, it doesn't really come in a pack of crisps, right? Like if you want something, like you can't really find it in crisps. So I always knew I have to be hardworking, but I feel like a huge, what has a huge impact on that was my previous career path. I wouldn't even call it a career, but I was playing football professionally. So
wow, I didn't know this.
I didn't know
That's
this
amazing.
well, it was like 20 years ago. But I did.
Sorry, hang on. What position did you play?
Yes,
I was a midfielder.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was on like national level, I would say. So,
So you were playing for Poland.
no, like for Poland. Like I was playing for one of the like districts here, so something like I would say the voivodeships we call them, but they're bigger. I think a bit bigger than districts in the UK. So yeah, I don't really know how to compare it, and they're like, but pretty much the same level.
Yeah.
So you have actual opinions that actually are of value against our Premiership right now. Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh well, I think we should have a separate episode of podcast if you talk about that.
Yeah, stay tuned for that one.
yeah. That's gonna be that would be interesting. But yeah, I still follow football, and I do like. I feel like that really taught me not to give up, and I did give up once when I played football. I had to stop, not because I wanted to stop. I had to stop because of health problems, so they didn't allow me to play football any longer. Which I feel like, again, I'm very grateful that it turned out this way, because I wouldn't be talking to you guys now. But I did give up once. I was a little bullied, and I didn't want to go to a major tournament because those people who were bullying me, they were sitting on the bench while I was in the first team. So I'm not dealing with it. I'm the stubborn 13-year-old. I'm not going. And I had coaches begging me to go. My parents telling like, "Hey, you've done so much, and you're not gonna go to this like finals." Like, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. And I gave up. And I think that was the very last time in my life I really gave up. So I was so gutted. It's like I will never give up on me again. And they lost, so I was like double gutted, because they did have a chance. Like it's kind of like the small things you don't think about it on a daily basis, but sport really taught me a lot of things that I applied to business. And that, I mean, you can't go wrong. I would say one of the best partners or clients or even people in my team are the ones that have some sort of like sport related past, because they know about this discipline. They know about like how to tackle things, how to tackle challenges, not to give up. It's not something you have to teach them.
That's brilliant.
I think we already know what your USP is, because that was going to be my next question. But what is your USP, do you think?
I think before we did that, it would be quite interesting just to go back. You started Brainybees obviously through consultancy, so it was a natural flow. What got you into SEO? Like what got you into that makeup? Because obviously you had experience in doing it, and then obviously you created your own consultancy. But one of the things that is your background is just, what did you study? Is that something that you studied, or did you just get into by chance? Yeah, we could.
Yeah, I was studying marketing. I didn't really get much out of it. I learned way more during my time in agencies. But yeah, SEO was kind of also natural, because I was always a writer. Writing Polish and writing English, and that was like very first USP of Brainybees was like that we work in English. And then it's like I wanted to understand a bit more. Why am I writing these things? Can they be better? Can they rank better? It's kind of very natural flow that in many projects we would have this like outsourced, or our client would have a set of guidelines and we'd just like be following. And I didn't want to follow any longer. I wanted to give this direction. I want to understand why we're doing it, just to be able to discuss with the clients like, hey, maybe it doesn't make sense. Hey, maybe it's better to do it this way or that way. And that's very natural. And that's also what now is leading me more and more towards very tech SEO, because that was also this demand. Our clients started asking things. I didn't know all these things. So now I have the whole SEO team that was non-existent, let's say 3 years ago. But now I want them. Maybe I don't need them for each and every project, but I want them to be on board and give me these directions if I don't know them, because it's completely fine not to know everything. Like calling yourself an expert or specialist doesn't mean that you know every single thing in the world. Like I don't.
Yeah.
And it's completely fine. Like let's not like stigmatize it that, oh, you need to know everything. Wherever you go, that's your industry, you need to know everything. We don't know everything, and that's fine.
And that's the great thing I found when I've been working with you over the last 8 months or so, Kinga, is, you know, you have your guys. You kind of sound like a mob boss, like I said yesterday, with your guys. but you've got like an expert, you know, and you surround yourself with experts. And I think that's such an amazing attribute, you know, to kind of have, really, to be perfectly honest.
Which is not
So Kinga,
really...
just on this, just going back to the USP question, I think this is really important. I have been working with different SEO organizations and teams, you know, over my experience over the last few decades. And obviously I've been incredibly rewarded with just your experience and your team and your efforts. But, you know, amongst a really, really difficult vertical and probably market, how do you set yourself aside from the rest of them?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a very good question, because it's not something I think about every single day, because I kind of don't have to. We have a lot of clients. We focus, and this is one of the USP. We focus on making our clients happy, not making more clients. So for me, it's just investing our resources into quality of what we deliver. That's why I have this tech SEO team. That's why we are recommending or suggesting this or that activity. So we really focus. I know it sounds cliche, but we really focus on making our clients satisfied and like happy with what we deliver. That's why we go this extra mile, and it's very it's very easy to take it as a scope creep. That, oh, you go the extra mile, you do so many things you can bill for, but I don't have to bill for something. It makes my client grow, so it makes me happy. Like I just want to do these things that even sometimes are out of my scope, and I know that many agencies don't do it. That's not something I'm going to put on the website. Like, hey, we go the extra mile. Go and leverage it. Like use us as you can. But it's something that I want our clients to always know and feel that they can rely on us. That we over communicate, we put our clients first, and I would say that's something that many agencies do. Not many agencies say, not many agencies do, unfortunately. And we roll our sleeves up if that's needed. We do this dirty job, not just something that we are tasked with, but even something that we kind of invent during the process. Like, hey, that should be done. That makes sense. That doesn't make sense. We call clients out if something doesn't make sense. They don't have to agree with us, but I want to say, like, hey, it doesn't make sense what you propose here. It's not going to cannibalize. It's going to be in opposite to this or that. Like I would rather call it out and have a client like, well, complaining again, than not saying and then see that it costs some havoc. So I honestly prefer that. And we agile, I would say then. So it's not something that's set in stone. We can have a plan today. It's fine if we change it during like the next month or two, because we have better opportunities. So it's not like we just have to work on plans for a quarter. We monitor things, we see trends. Even like a few weeks ago, there was something about one tool actually sunsetting their operations, and we hopped on it straight away. That was like out of the blue announcement. So one of our project is a competitor to that tool, and we like straight away. I remember writing it overnight, like alternatives to that tool. That wasn't on the plan. That wasn't anywhere set in stone. I was just, hey, we have to hop on it now. So
I'll just summarize here, just because we've got so many more questions. I would say your USP is firstly working in a B2B tech space. I think that's quite specific, right? SEO.
I wanted to ask, like, why
B2C.
why B2B tech? What's really like so interesting about B2B versus B2C for you? Sorry.
Well, first of all, it was very very measurable. That's something that you can measure. Like you can measure impact way easier than something that you would do in B2C. Because I was working with B2C, And one of the clients I was working with was a huge manufacturer of well, not manufacturer, it's more like dairy producer. So, butter, all these things. I can't measure if from my Facebook post there were people who went to shop and actually bought that butter. There's so many other factors, and like this, you can't do that. With SaaS, with B2B tech, it's not black and white, but you have more info that you can use to it. So you
It's
can
easy
see
to
the impact.
attribute.
Yeah, so I would say this is the main thing, that you can see your impact, and then your team can see the impact, the clients can see the impact. Is the level of collaboration is just, say, tighter, better. Everyone's playing to the same goal. So that's what really like keeps me motivating as well, like motivated every single day. I can see that I can impact it, and I can contribute to the growth.
Yeah.
Should we move on to your business? Because I'm quite interested to hear, the purpose of this channel is to really hear about small businesses like yourself and how you started, and then also, what your plan is. So maybe that's a good segue just to getting into that into more detail. What do you think, Jon?
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to know what the overall goal of Brainybees is.
I don't want to say anything cliche like being the best SaaS content marketing agency in the world, because what's best for me, it doesn't have to be best for you. It's a lot of things that come under this best umbrella. I want it to be the most customer-centric SaaS team, most, I would say, agile SaaS team. I don't have any monetary or organizational goal that I have to have 20 or 25 people on board or 50,000 clients. I'm really happy where we are now, which is we have stable clients, amazing clients. That's what I always wanted to have. Amazing clients who understand the business, want to collaborate with you and treat you as like a partner, because we treat our clients like partners. And who are working on cool projects with cool people in my team. And I couldn't be more proud and happy with whom I have in my team. And there have been people who were with us for 4 years now, 3-4 years. So I would say they don't want to leave, and I'm very happy about that, because they obviously could. Everyone can leave anytime. They don't want to. They choose to work with me, with the rest of the team on the projects. And I honestly, I don't think I have this kind of goal, like where I'm going to be in 5 years, also because the industry is changing. And I don't want to plan like long term. The industry is changing, and I would rather like make some investments now into the team, into quality, into the technology. We do have a lot of internal processes and operations going on. They're going to cost money, because we build them from scratch, some of the solutions, because there are no solutions in the market. So I just build them internally. And I wouldn't need this tech SEO team. I could have told our clients, hey, you just hire someone and they're going to check it for you. No, that's not the case. I want to have this on board so I can provide more and more holistic offer to our clients, but I will never get to 360 degrees marketing and just pretend that I'm an expert at everything. I do like our niche.
You want to stay firmly within your niche then, right?
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
I
just think just to summarize that, I think as a business owner who is on a journey, I think one of the advantages of a small business is that you can be more practical and logical in your growth rate. So you can pivot, right? So a great goal, when you're a more established business and when there's probably investors, talking to you about where your numbers are, the focus is on like, what can we do this year, or what can we do over the next 3 years? But for you, it's more about, we've got here now. A general goal is to double that, but obviously there are circumstances that could impact that. So how do we make sure we set ourselves up for success in the future? And I think I just wanted to summarize that as a small business owner who is going through this journey, there's loads of challenges, which we'll obviously discuss now. But the advantage of it is that you can pivot quickly and you don't have these pressures that are against you, because, people are looking to be able to get their return on investment. So yeah, I thought that was a really good summary from you.
It's very, very sustainable, and it allows us to do a lot of things we wouldn't have done if we were struggled. If I were like, I will have to push, we have to push. So then I couldn't do this or that. So yeah, that's pretty much what he said.
Brilliant. I had a question, Jon. Actually. You were talking a lot when you were talking about like what the goal of Brainybees was, about your team and about the people that you hire. And I've obviously spoken to you about this before, but how important as a small business owner is it to get the right people in your team? And what does that process look like, when you're hiring someone to build out your business further?
Well, that's one of my mistakes, I would say, in
Right.
business with when it comes to hiring, because it's very hard to hire someone not in this industry. If you want to hire anyone, you will find people. It's more like if you will find someone who meets your requirements. And for a very long time for me, the only person who would meet my requirements is myself. And so I was looking for my clone. And it's like I was, frustrated, like, hey, why you don't do this like I do? Why you don't do it that quickly? Why you don't, I was frustrated with that. And then I just realized, hey, well, there are no
There's no
clones
one
of it.
like you out there,
Yeah, and no one's gonna, and that sad truth, which is like I wouldn't say sad, it's just truth. No one's gonna care about my business as much as I do. Like never
Mm.
ever. That's my business. Like I can't expect someone to care about it and reply to me at 11 p.m. because I just need something. So I just like, okay, hold on, that's not the way to go. But hiring still is a huge thing. Like I had a recruitment process open a few months ago. I decided to hire one person, but it was after getting more than 400 CVs. And it's like, okay, well, I can't be that picky any longer. And actually, the person I hired is amazing. Like I was doubting that person, and I was like, I feel really stupid about it now. But it takes time, and people say hire slowly and fire quickly. I did it all the way around. So I at some point I just hired quickly. I just needed someone. I just thought, okay, I just like you just sit here. I'm gonna teach you things. Like that's what you do. And then I took my sweet time firing someone. Even I should have fired the person. There's not many people I fired, but there was this person I should have fired way, 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 way quicker than I did actually. And it turned out that it was very healthy for the entire team that this person is gone.
Mm.
So this is something you can maybe learn from some business books, or someone's going to tell you. You need to experience it and see how it impacts your team
I think
dynamics and everything.
something that's not really appreciated, and I include myself in this, is the emotional investment that small
Yeah.
business owners make into their business. And throughout this series, we've kind of explored that a little bit. But I just want to know what does your business mean for you?
It's pretty much everything. Like it's a huge chunk of my life that allows me to be where I am in my life, so I can't just disconnect. Even today is a bank holiday here, and I don't have to work. But I prefer to working. I prefer like doing something because it can have impact. But it's like a vicious circle. It just goes and goes. So about this emotional connection, it's very true, because then you think it depends really, yeah, how you tackle it. Because for me, each person in my team, they are not employees. I hate calling them employees. They just this is my
It's
team.
amazing.
This is my team. Those are all people I care about. Not only, I mean, of course, I care about what they deliver to my clients, to our clients, not my clients,
Mm.
our clients. I don't treat them like, hey, this is your task, you have to deliver, and that's it. Like that's your box, and you're just in this box, deliver what you have to, and just go home. Now we're really close to each other. Like I know about some problems or some challenges people have. They communicate to me. I communicate to them. They don't feel well, they're fine, they know they can come to me. There's some companies where you're scared of saying, hey, I don't feel well, I don't feel 100%, can I skip today? Because you can't like possibly do it. Why for me is I prefer to have someone 100% with me and willing to work and ready to work that day and deliver, than struggle and then hate their life and hate me. So yeah, but again, this business situation we are at, this allows for it. I don't know how it would be if I were on this edge of being a profitable company. But I don't think it would change. I feel like I really wanted to stay human to people, because in the past I had bosses who were nothing close to being human to me. So and to anyone else in the team. So I
So
wanted
Kinga,
to.
just so that we can circle back on that. As a business leader myself, there's always a question where when we need to hire more people. I get asked that daily. It's quite specific in our world, because I have a budget and I have to answer to my investors. So from that it's simple. But for you, who is able to pivot, you obviously hiring, I assume, based on client demand, so client need. So It could be, you're writing X amount of content pieces for them or doing whatever. So that means you have to try and create resource to be able to establish that. But obviously, the clients that you have are not fixed necessarily for long term, right? So, how do you manage that conversation when a client necessarily doesn't work out, and you now have extra resources that you have? So how does in that in your mind, how do you try and play that out to yourself firstly? Because as a business owner, you don't want to let people down, but actually, in reality, that's just business. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well. We don't really have that's gonna sound terrible. We don't really have situations where something doesn't work out with the clients because we do have this
Brilliant.
vibe check before we start working with them as well. And I prefer taking things slowly. Also, like as you said, I do hire people. Let's say we have a huge demand for content, but I want to also test that person and seeing maybe they are better at one type of content than another and they could grow here. So I had one person who turned out writes amazing landing pages and microcopy. They struggle with like long form. I thought they would be amazing with long form. And I kind of moved it, okay, so we can do that. So we are agile also internally. And if something doesn't work out, if there are like some problematic clients, we don't really have those. But if they were, there's nothing that would bring this kind of consequence that I would have to fire someone because there's no demand for that person. If anything, we are understaffed. Like I could take 10 more people on board and they would still have something to do. But hiring is really, really tricky. It's one of the biggest challenges, I would say, find the people who can follow the company direction and they want to be a part of it. I would say it's huge. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's quite
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to hire you because we need to make sure that we don't lose clients like you don't lose clients. I mean, that's just amazing, right? So yeah. I suppose on that, there's been a lot of things that you've spoken about where you've had really good success. Customers really appreciate and value you and your team. We are one of them. If we can plug and promote your organization, we love Brainybees. We think that everyone should use them. So yeah, but there must obviously be a few things on the other side where you have experienced a few things which have been hard to make decisions on, or there's been a few challenges along the way. It would just be great for our listeners to be able to understand some of those and and how you dealt with that.
Yeah, well, first of all was I started Brainybees and I also thought, okay, it's gonna be optimistic. We have a few clients like this from SaaS, but then it turned out they're like very small. There were Polish companies, SaaS companies. They didn't have millions in the budget. They did expect results overnight. So I remember myself like working to the bone overnight, like trying to squeeze more activities, but it didn't really work. I ended up like being almost burned out. So that was my mistake that I took too many things and I probably promised too many because I really wanted to help. I didn't want to promise the moon, but I kind of wanted to deliver the moon. You know what I mean. So that was a mistake. I don't think I made again. Also, I don't like calling them mistakes. I call them learnings. I would say mistakes are like excuses. You just say, "Oh, I made a mistake," and that's it. But if you learn from it and you don't do it again, it's a learning, and it's actually really valuable because a lot of my mistakes made me grow, and a lot of my mistakes made me realize some things that I wouldn't have realized if I didn't make that mistake. So I'm very grateful for my mistakes. There was a mistake. Yeah, like I know how it sounds, but I do. It's not like I love
No, I mean,
making
I
mistakes,
completely
but
agree. You learn a
but I
lot
just
when
It
yeah.
makes sense. It makes sense.
you learn a hell of a lot.
It leads the example of your mindset again from when we first talked about you as a person. You're looking at a positive swing rather than it being negative and it gets you down. So
But
it's another
the
example of where
dogged
it is.
determination
Yeah.
as well, that really comes through.
There are many mistakes. There were mistakes when I focused more on the client than a team a couple of years ago, and it did kick me because two people from my team decided to leave. And like, fair enough, I didn't want to stop someone who didn't want to work in the company, but it did like kick my company like in short term because I had to cover for them. And I remember that was around my wedding as well. So I had all the things on my mind, and then I had to cover for someone, and that was in the COVID times. I mean, that was everything at once. And obviously, the mistake was like I didn't care enough about like well-being in the company or onboarding or kind of checking the pulse with people. I do it now, but well, there are hectic days that I I may forget about it or something like that. Trying not to. I'm not a perfect boss, that's for sure, but I'm like still learning. No one taught me how to run a business or be a boss, so it's all like my learnings. And
But now your husband at that stage, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you and your husband work together, yes?
we do work together now.
Oh, but you didn't before. Okay, okay.
Yeah. We didn't work. We've been working together for a while now, because he had this like career pivot, and started working with us, after working more in like
I was just
academia.
thinking, like, how did you guys cope as people who worked together and knew that you needed to get married, but actually there wasn't any staff? But it sounds like actually that wasn't at that stage.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like the marriage was before, probably for a good reason. So,
Mm,
no, it is challenging. I would say for anyone
mm,
who works with like their significant other together, it
mm.
is challenging to kind of cross, have this border. Like, okay, that's life, that's work, that shouldn't intertwine, but it will, and it's like you have to accept the fact like you will have this work related conversations at dinner or at holidays. You'll probably have that. But no, it's otherwise like I can recommend that. Another mistake is like that's something that may be easier to imagine. I remember putting a campaign on Facebook, and I had a lifetime budget to put for the campaign for the whole month, and I did put it as a daily budget. I did
Oh
realize
no.
I did realize it though after like two hours or something, because we're getting like an extraordinary number of comments and everything. It's like, okay, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I know this post is good, but is it that good? And I just like say, oh my god, it's fine. I mean, I did spend like a fair 30% of a lifetime budget, but it did work out in the end. Like it was nice because it turned out that there's many comments and likes generated more comments and likes from people because they were this kind of like no, like how's it anyway? Never mind. Like they saw this post is really liked and shared, so they wanted to chip in with their like
Yeah,
and with the comments. So it was fine
yeah.
in the end. But I was like, that wasn't when I was in the Brainybees. That was I think just before on my like freelance projects. Like, oh my god, they're gonna kill me. Well, it's fine. We still work together actually. It's been like eight years with that client, so it's fine.
It's brilliant.
Good stuff. I think Steve, and Kinga, I think maybe we should go to the next section about SEO,
Yeah,
unless there was other things you wanted to explore there.
yeah. I'd like to start. I have had my own journey in SEO. I've worked for organizations that are specifically focused on organic. I have sold enterprise SEO and organic solutions. The one thing that I know is that it is not easy. So SEO in general is really tough. And what we often learn is that you have to start something now to be able to actually start seeing results in like 18 to 24 months, right? So as I suppose my first thing is SEO. Like, why should I do that instead of like pay for traffic right now, or I don't know, go out and talk to people instead? And what do you what you know how do you try and position it to a small business owner who needs that for the long term? Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a question after this, Steve. So let's hear Kinga's answer first.
Yeah, SEO is tricky, especially now when a lot of operations within SEO can be either automated or facilitated. It kind of unlocked to many, many more businesses. And I would say this is the very last moment for you to jump on this bandwagon, because the algorithm is keeping changing. So you have to keep up with it, and a lot of your competitors already left the station, and you have to get the first train to actually try to get them. SEO is something that I remember someone telling me, oh, SEO, so O stands for overnight, like, yeah, search engine overnight. Like, no, it's optimization, and it
Brilliant.
takes time. Yeah. So I would say this is common perception that you don't want to invest in SEO because it takes time. It takes time to implement it, takes time to see the results. It's a long-term game. If you invest in paid, in Google Ads and so on, you see the results as long as the campaign is running. If you plug it off, that's it. Like, you're not gonna just get magic clicks from Google because it's not gonna be shown in Google. So that's long-term game that you can really navigate as you please. It's almost like unlimited what you can do with SEO. While you can't do that on social media. You can't post something like every 5 minutes on your Facebook page and expect people to click on it, because lifespan of the posts are like, a few minutes now on Facebook or other platforms. So SEO is tough because it takes, first of all, before you start any activities in terms of SEO, you have to understand that, well, it will take time. You will have some spikes. You can see, overnight success with 1 or 2 articles, but with the whole strategy, you need to understand that the chart's not going to look like that. It's going to look like that, right? And if you're lucky, I would say, because it's more like this at this point. But SEO is something that you can really navigate. You can present your product with SEO in the right way, with product-led SEO, and you can find how to merge product-related content with something that users are looking for. So the user intent, experience they are requiring now to be given in their face, and it kind of ticks a lot of boxes that some platforms may or not. SEO can be like super holistic with that.
Taking a step back, right? Just going back to Steve's question, and really kind of talking about like justifying, the investment on SEO. One of the things that I've had in my career consistently from, my leaders is, when am I going to see return on investment on SEO? So my question is for Kinga initially. How do you justify that return on investment, to your clients? And then for Steve, if I'm a small business owner and I've just raised some funding with some investors, and one of the caveats and conditions of raising that funding was to go and amplify said brand through SEO, how do you have that conversation, with investors, and how do you manage their expectations?
So for us, as we work with SaaS companies and IT companies, clients or projects that come to us, they usually have this kind of layer of understanding that, okay, we've heard about it, we need it, we don't want to have everything else offered. Like, we know we have to go this path. So the conversation is a bit different. But what I would do is I will show the whole buyer awareness matrix. I call it like that. So it's like a funnel. Even if
From the top to the bottom by intent, right?
So you have the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. It's never like you see, or maybe you see that with B2C. You see some TikTok content, you can click, maybe you will buy it, right now. It doesn't work like this with software. It doesn't work like this with web development companies. You don't just decide on using service that maybe it's not expensive, but it takes implementation, it takes testing, it takes research, it takes even checking out with your team if they're gonna like it. There's also very often a case that the founder wants to use something and then no one in the team wants that. So that's another thing. It's a lot of factors that I would say SEO and content can help with, because they act as guides. Like, hey, that's what you struggle with this, like pain point. You can do this, and then one of those methods is actually bringing you even down the funnel. So, okay, like, oh, I like that one. I read more about it. And then you have, let's say, a list of solutions that could fulfill that point. It's like one of those solutions can be your product. And then, okay, well, I like how it's presented in that one. So I click on this one, and you just get to another, like this bottom of the funnel saying, hey, we are best because of this and this and this and that. And I'm talking about SaaS, but it could be about anything else, about watches, about any.
So it's
other
about making
service
that connection, right, to your client, that like, whatever you put out there has a clear delineation and path, like, to revenue, right, and conversions.
And you can do that with SEO. Because you can connect the dots. It will be very hard to connect dots this way logically on social media or with paid or anything like that. With SEO, you have this control over how you present this information, how you update it, how many times you publish it, how many times you're going to link even internally. You can build external links to it to boost it even further for SEO. So you need to have a whole overview. It's not about just one piece of content or one mention here or there. As I say, it's super holistic process. But once you get this understanding why it matters, it's pleasure to execute. Like, even in those circumstances now with AI and algorithms and so on, you can see how you can navigate it almost in this unlimited way. for your brand, for your products, for your services.
Steve,
Um,
investors.
So, it's a very difficult conversation, if I'm honest, because for small business owners that do have investors that are looking for a return, and when I say small business owners, it's people like yourselves, Kinga, or people who have 50 to 100 employee company, right? Those are still small businesses. And generally in that more complex world, there has been investment, there's been around a series. And so there is an expectation on delivering. And obviously, it all depends on whether SEO is right for that stage of that company or not. It could be they're already doing okay. There's enough visibility, there's enough awareness about their brand, so you'd spend marketing elsewhere. The way, so John, to answer your question, the way that I really start this conversation with an investor is to look at what we're already spending our money on. And if I were to take that money away today, will there still be traffic tomorrow? And generally, the answer is no, because you're stopping the funnel, really. Paid social media that you talked about there, Kinga, everything that we are pushing to an audience, if you stop that spend today, you can't get that traffic tomorrow. But with SEO and with organic, there is an investment. I think there's a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding that it's free. It's not. We're spending a lot of money on a yearly basis to be able to get our organic.
It's not called earned media for nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think the underlying tone is that there is an investment and it is significant, and the ROI is long term. But if I were to stop spending that money today for the organic efforts we're making, I'm still going to see traffic tomorrow. And so for me, that's the biggest draw card for an investor, is to understand that if we were to get into a tricky situation and we needed to optimize costs, for instance, at least some of that money that we've invested today in organic is still there tomorrow. The difference is balancing it out. We need quick revenue now and quick short-term funnel now, and then we need an underlying tone of long-term funnel later. And I think that's the tricky question. How do you balance that out with investors to make sure that the balance is right?
Can I just add that for us also, what resonates with our clients or projects who are like, hey, we've heard that we need SEO, but we're not sure. So we just say, hey, when you do this on social media, you invest all of your resources into something that you don't build on your own ground. I remember there was this one day, I think last year, this day, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they were all down. And there are some companies relying just on that, like Facebook marketing agency. Just imagine you have that, or you have a company like Small Business that 90% of the revenue comes from Facebook community that they run, and then that's gone. With SEO, you invest in your own playground, right? You plant all the seeds in your own garden. You don't do it on other platforms. So,
but it's also, you're not putting all your eggs in one channel. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And because that's a bad move to make.
Yeah, I never recommend that, because we do have some projects and clients coming, hey, we actually want to switch all the budget to this. Don't. Better to start slow and steady, see if we can diversify it, or maybe boost one activity with another. So for example, we have one project where we build a lot of alternative to X tool content, and then they use it for paid as well, because that resonates with that part of the funnel they need. Someone's looking for alternatives to another solution, and they actually can use it now because they're looking for it already. So they're exactly where they can convert. So it's not social media is bad and SEO is great. They can work together, and I'm all up for it.
I was just about to say, it's about having a healthy, harmonious, relationship with all your channels, utilizing them as and when you need them, and not necessarily, like I was saying earlier, putting your eggs in one basket for sure. But Steve, you had something else to say.
I was just going to say, I'm just really enjoying this, and I'm conscious that we're probably reaching the end of our timing here, but I have a great topic that I think would be useful for our listeners today, and that's just around the AI piece. So I just feel like there's this really big buzzword that's been ongoing for a long time, but I think AI is becoming more tangible in its ability to be able to create solutions that are more practical. And I can see that really honing into the way that we create content, what we're seeing online, but also Google is trying to, make sure that that there's a limitation to AI versus like a human, the kind of interaction. And I don't know, what are your thoughts around that? It would be great to, just to learn from you.
Yes, I love hearing that, oh, Google is killing AI. Google is not killing AI. Google is having like their own AI solutions just on the table right now as we speak. It's more about Google is killing content that's not helpful. And it's in very, very many cases, this helpful content is nothing else, just this AI fluff. So it's not just, I would say AI is for people. Like if you know how to use it, it's great. If you don't know how to use it, don't use it. If you don't know how to drive a car, you don't really drive a car. So I would say I hope it will be the same kind of license for people to use AI. Because if you don't know how to use it, if you don't know how to prompt, if you don't know how to leverage what it can help you with, you just feel that it's great for generating content and just put it on site. It's not going to work. And I can say that from my experience, because we have here at Brainybees, we have a couple of sandbox sites where we test things out. We don't want to use our clients as these rabbits in a lab. So we do have our sites, we do it. And we did with one of our sites, we just put a lot of this AI content. Like we didn't optimize it, we didn't do anything, just put, on scale. And it's rock bottom. There's nothing happening on the site. Well, we have a site where we use AI for generating content, but we optimize it, we add images and so on. We do use, like, I would say 80% of that content is really AI. 20% is some of the human edit. And we are like honestly, almost overnight traffic. Because like Google saw that it's actually helpful. It shows like instructions, step by step, some comments, even made up expert comments. We just experimenting. So it's not like, oh, AI is really bad. AI can be used for a lot of SEO things that are not directly like content. So we use it, for example, for creating briefs or talking points. We use it for creating checklists. I absolutely love using it for getting transcripts from YouTube. So for example, if you put this recording on YouTube and someone doesn't want to watch it, they can use AI to distill the transcript, and then they can use AI to get 10 key takeaways of what we were like talking about, and that's it. That's how they may consume it. So and then how we can use it as well for content creation. We can just say, oh, key takeaways from our Small Business Diaries episode. So it's a lot of things. I would say that AI is not going to help you with creating content, but repurposing content, something that's like very neglected by many companies, small business, medium business, because you never have time for it, or you thought you have no resources, or you would have to hire someone. Obviously, that could have been a case in the past. You need a social media manager for writing posts on Facebook. Now you can create them like based on what you're gonna feed AI with.
I've got a couple of follow-up questions actually. So what would you say to a small business owner that's looking to automate all their content marketing right now with AI? Because what I'm seeing on LinkedIn is a lot of approaches and businesses advocating for that, right? Where you can spin up hundreds and thousands of pieces of content simultaneously, and you talked about the experiments that you run, but what the pitfalls, really I want you to hone in on the pitfalls, and what would you be saying to those people specifically?
Automate some of those things. First of all, don't spend that much time on LinkedIn.
Wow, that's another topic in itself.
Maybe have a second podcast for that.
Yes, please. Oh, yes. I would say automate some of these processes. So create now you have this EEAT rule that's introduced by Google.
What does that mean for our
listeners? Now the newest eat is now experience. That's what Google added to this: expertise, authoritativeness, truthfulness. So Google now wants these pieces of content to be more like humanized. So include some comments, some quotes, some stats, some input from the human, right? Like in all this AI world. So I would say create your content this way. Use AI to make it sound better, just give it some input. But remember, what's the first thing you can see when you log in on ChatGPT? It says ChatGPT can make mistakes. Like, so you can't really trust it if it's going to write about your product or services or your USP. It doesn't know it. So you keep this product knowledge as your asset and just use it, just leverage it, help AI use it, but don't like kill it or make it like write it from scratch. It's not going to. Even if you give the best input, it's not going to write it in your tone of voice. It's not going to write it factually correct. So keep it yourself and use AI for things that you wouldn't have done before because you had no time. So like social media posts, even this LinkedIn posts, newsletters, things that you neglected, like very often you neglect that things. In SaaS, in B2B, they just don't do it because you would need a separate person to do it, or you just never have time, and it didn't matter. Now you have this tool. It's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely, but it just has to be used like in the right way, using the right
And I would say,
methodology and techniques.
use it this way, because people can also spot this kind of AI content. How are they going to trust you if the first thing they see on your website is same sentence? I think is like, in the world of digital marketing. That's the very common AI sentence, and if you see that and say, okay, that's going to be all AI. You can use it for some content creation, for example, for programmatic SEO. So when you create this input about your product, like features, pros, cons, and we use it in alternatives or comparisons, because at some point you will need to use AI. You're not going to write for the 30 times the same thing. Programmatic SEO is like templates. So you can create those alternatives to tool 1, 2, 3, 4, 70, and just use templates to automate some parts of that based on input from, let's say, spreadsheets. So that's what I would say using AI is okay for, but you always have to edit it, you always have to check it, and sometimes you end up correcting AI more than you would have just written it from scratch.
So it's really, you just want to be carefully managing it, right? Use it a bit like Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility, I guess. Is the overwhelming message for AI. I have a second and final question from me, and then obviously Steve might have additional ones because we are coming to the end here. I do spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, too much time on LinkedIn. One of the things that's like getting me a little bit concerned, and I'd like to know more about, and I'm sure our listeners would like to learn more about, is about generative search. And for those that don't know what generative search is, it's a whole new way of searching for content on the internet. And Google at the moment has this out in beta. They're trialing it in the United States. What it does is when you search for something, it pulls in generative AI to flesh out the search engine listing. So Kinga, with that in mind, what do you think that's going to do to the industry?
Well, we don't know yet. We don't know how it's going to be implemented in the final version, let's say. I don't think Google is going to kill what made Google, and actually what made Google a really healthy company and wealthy company, which is also ads and this kind of content. Like, we all spend money and research on SEO, so they won't just kill it overnight, because no one's going to invest in it, no one's going to spend money on that. So, well, Google can just disappear. So I don't think it's gonna completely destroy it. It's gonna make the experience better for the users who look for very general, quite like general answers, generic answers, like when was the war here or here, or when someone died, when someone was born, this kind of stuff. So it will, like, to this kind of would say information, generative search is gonna kill this unuseful content, for example, that's about I like referring to recipes. When you look for recipes online, you just want a recipe, right? But then you click, and then you have loads of adverts, story of their life, something, and then you have recipe at the bottom of a page. So that's what generative search is going to probably kill, saying, because, well, you just look for recipes, and user experience is like, I want a recipe. And I don't think with like SaaS or B2B with IT content, a lot of things going to change, except for featured snippets that might be gone. Featured snippets, there's like first answer that you can see on Google, and very often is just enough to have this answer, and that's it for the user. They don't click through. They wanted to know it, and so on. But with this funnel, we have sales funnel with all these parts of the funnel that contribute to the final decision. they will need to read more. Generative search is going to be like this, right? It's going to be short. It's not going to tell everything. It's not going to be the only source of truth. People will have to research more. They want to research more. They will look for more human touch with those. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why also platforms like Reddit and Quora are gaining popularity as they had in the past. But now when you go on Google, you just type any question, you will see a brand new snippet with Reddit and Quora questions there. So that's how Google is promoting this very human approach to content. There are people on Quora and Reddit, people using their own identities, like saying, I can stay as Kinga Edwards, and I do because I'm active on Quora. What do you recommend here and here? And you just type from my user experience, hey, I've been using this tool, hey, I've bought this product, was good, was bad, and people will be looking for that. That's why that's what this generative search is also about, just cutting the fluff, in my opinion. I'm completely wrong in a month or two. That's SEO too.
Okay, no, really appreciate that answer, Kinga. Steve, anything else from you?
I just want to thank you. It was been great speaking to you. And just a plug, Brainybees has been an inspiration. Your company has been an inspiration to us. We've really enjoyed working with you as well. To all our listeners out there, we do use Kinga and her team to be able to help us on our journey for our organic strategy. And it's just such a pleasure to work with you and your team.
Oh,
So if there are any listeners out there that are looking for people or for external parties like you, or agencies or companies like you, who have a much more human approach to agency work, then I would highly recommend you get in touch.
thank you. I
Good
mean,
time.
likewise, we love working with you, and also like whoever's watching it. If you have any extra questions, just like reach out to me. I'm happy to specify something else, because we could have spent here hours and hours talking about it. So it's very likely that you may have additional questions, and just feel free to reach out anywhere to me.
The link to Kinga's consultancy will be in the description of the episode. With that being said, I just want to thank you all for listening. Thank you, Kinga, for your time. Thank you,
Yeah.
Steve, for your time as always. Don't forget to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Let us know if you like this content in the comments on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Email us directly. Let us know what you think about it. Let us know who you'd like us to speak to, and let us know what topics you'd like us to explore. With that being said, that's the second episode of Small Business Diaries. I've been Jon Davis, and that is Steve Ledgerwood, because he's just looking at me vacantly.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Thank you very much for listening. Bye now.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.